I'm Judy Shaw for NYSE Floor Talk. Joining me today is Justin Behar. He is CEO at Trax. Justin, it's wonderful to have you here. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Well, I am very excited to speak with you, but before we do that, just a quick note to viewers, this interview is for informational purposes only. The NYSE doesn't recommend any investments or investment strategies. All right, so Justin, tell me about Trax. What do you do?
Initially started as a company that was focused on bringing automation and digital technology to helping very large consumer packaged goods companies improve how they execute in retail environments, so how they figure out what's going on with their products in store. Fast forward to today, a decade later, Trax is a global leader and provider of computer vision and AI technology to many of the largest CPG manufacturers on the planet. Our technology sort of digitizes what happens in store for brands, and yeah, that's sort of the core.
So tell me, how does that work? How do brands use your platform?
Sure. So at Trax, we like to think of it as a picture's worth 1,000 data points, right? So images get submitted to us either through the field teams of brands in store or through our own crowd-based workforce. And our AI and CV platform recognizes every SKU in those products and turns it into a data asset. So anything that you can see with your eyes, our computer vision technology can see, turn it into a data asset, and then we share that with CPG manufacturers who subscribe to our SaaS platform. We also have an on-demand workforce. Think of it as an Uber for merchandising. And so we help brands act on that data by making sure they can get the out of stock that's in store fixed, or the promotion that was supposed to be executed actually implemented at the store, or see a new competitive dynamic at the shelf and respond quickly at a store level. Retail is a very physical thing. You have to be in the store by store to execute.
Right.
And so that's what we do. We also help them use the understanding of what's happening in store to shape shopper experiences. So the in-store experience is referred to as the moment of truth when shoppers are making a decision, and knowing exactly how things look at the shelf helps our brands figure out how do they personalize and target the message to the shopper when they're making that decision. And so that's what Trax does today.
Okay, and now you're hosting an event here at the New York Stock Exchange today, right upstairs. Tell me about this event.
Yeah, super exciting. So we launched recently our Trax Disruptor Series. Trax has worked with many of the largest CPGs, as I mentioned, for brands for years. We're trying to take all of those learnings and insights and also our relationships in the industry and bring them to bear to help the emerging high growth brands. You know, CPG industry's got a ton of growth coming from these great new startups that you see in your grocery store. And so we're trying to bring, again, those technologies and capabilities. So we have a big group upstairs. We've worked with probably 500 of those brands over the last few years. So we're trying to bring our insights to how to help them accelerate their business. And then we're giving an early sneak peek to a new product that we launched called Smart Action. And Smart Action is kind of the first solution that we have that essentially on an autonomous basis is constantly looking at the conditions inside the retail store through those images, and then making choices on behalf of our brands to figure out what stores we can take corrective actions in, and then triggering alerts out to our field teams to act on it. All that runs in sort of an autonomous way, AI powered, ultimately to just try and get the right products on the right shelf so it has the best experience for shoppers possible.
All right, now let's talk a little bit about the current macro environment. So tell me, how's it impacting consumer good brands? And more specifically, how do you see Trax playing a role during this uncertain time?
Yeah, so we're certainly seeing the impact of the current macroeconomic starting to emerge in various markets that we're in. We work across sort of 40 different countries at the major global markets. I would say that because consumer spending has kind of remained relatively resilient to date, we aren't seeing that much pressure yet on brands, so it's still relatively healthy. We see brands still being able to kind of eke out solid growth. That can change, and ultimately it's the most important for brands to make sure that the investments they can make at any given time are focused on the right things. And again, in retail, it all comes down to, can you make the right things happen in store at the right time? And so I think the brands that are making smart choices about how they automate, how they bring more leverage to their store efforts, will continue to win. And for us, the broader secular trend that's been running for a long time across really all industries, which is digitize more and more of what you do to drive more scale and automation. In some way, the current macro conditions are a tailwind for that, right? Because people are looking at planning, how do I spend the dollars that I do have, and making sure they get as much leverage out of that as possible. And so we see broad interest in just continuing to digitize supply chain, retail execution, and that's what we help brands do every day.
All right. Well, it's been wonderful to talk with you, Justin. Thanks for joining me on NYSE Floor
Thank
Talk.
you so much for having me.